The Great Society was revolutionary. When you look back and think of what America was like before these programs were adopted, life was very different.
There was an outbreak of hope across this country.
And it was quixotic, it was kind of Arthurian, this idea of might for right.
These things are all resonating to this day.
I really don't know where I'd be without Job Corps.
Thank God for Medicare.
I can feel worthy. I can be great.
I think many of the Great Society programs were so successful and had an impact on so many of our lives in an overwhelmingly positive way. We have to question, why did we move away from that?
The Great Society was a cluster of projects undertaken by the president.
He saw racial discrimination and he saw poverty as moral issues, not just as political issues.
In 1964, Johnson and the civil rights groups managed to pass the first major civil rights legislation.
And it was the first comprehensive civil rights legislation in the United States since 1875.
The Civil Rights Act said public accommodations have to be available to everybody, no discrimination on the basis of race. So with one fell swoop, the Great Society wiped out all the whites-only signs.
This administration today declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
The war on poverty was part of this idea that you have not a handout, but a hand up.
In the 60s, it was hard scrabble for a lot of folks. And what we saw with the war on poverty was, for a lot of people, this meant jobs.
What it's saying is, we're going to bring the less affluent into the mainstream of the society.
When Lyndon Johnson became president, the poverty rate was about 22%. When he left office 5 years later, the poverty rate was 13%. That decline is the greatest one-time reduction in poverty in the history of this country.
Maybe the greatest impact that the Great Society had has been the Medicare program. Up until Medicare was passed, people who reached the age of 65 did not have guaranteed health insurance of any kind. And of course, Medicare now has tens of millions of people in it, and it seems like a humane and generous act of the society.
Most presidents are just happy to have one or two bits of legislation that endure, that have a historical resonance to it. Johnson slammed out bill after bill, act after act.
In education alone, he proposed legislation to provide scholarships, grants, and work-study programs for college students. Today, that legislation provides the resources for 60% of the people that are in college in the United States of America.
I got the maximum amount any person could get to go to college. I certainly would not have been able to attend school without this type of help.
America is always best when it is operating close to its founding ideals. Among those founding ideals is that it's our country and we should care about it and we should take care of it.
College work-study.
Kennedy Cultural Center.
Age Discrimination Act.
The question that people have is, how do we get back to such a progressive agenda? They can look to the past to see examples.
Aid to Appalachia.
Urban mass transit.
Scenic rivers and trails.
We have stellar moments in the history of our country. We can experience that same euphoria by seeking things that we haven't done, that are there for us, and we're going to do that. The best of American life cries for it.
I hope it may be said 100 years from now that by working together, we help to make our country more just for all of its people. I believe at least it will be said that we tried.